How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about all things relating to Marvel and, of course, the MCU. Well, today was supposed to be the release of Black Widow in theaters. Sadly, due to the coronavirus, it has been pushed back to November 6th of this year. So let's just hope that it stays November 6th and we get it this year. But in commemoration of what this day was supposed to be, I did do a Black Widow video yesterday on my comic book channel, Superhero Central, so be sure to go check that out to get your fix of Black Widow. But today we have some news about Namor and his introduction to the MCU, including that Avengers Endgame Easter egg that everybody knew was about Namor, but was never confirmed until now. And not only do we have confirmation about the Avengers Endgame Easter egg, but there's a rumor going around that Namor is set to appear in not one, not two, but 3 movies in Phase 4 and Phase 5. So I'll break down every single thing that you need to know about these new reports in this video, but first, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything relating to the MCU. So if you are unaware of the Avengers Endgame Namor Easter egg, let me refresh your mind. There's a scene in Avengers Endgame with Black Widow at the Avengers compound, and she's meeting with all of the other Avengers via hologram. At this point in time, Black Widow is the head of the Avengers as they currently stand, and she's called the meeting to check on the well-being of the Earth and the galaxy as well. And in this meeting, there is Nebula and Rocket, Okoye, Captain Marvel, and Rhodey. And at one point, Natasha asks Okoye, "Did you get a reading on those tremors?" Okoye then responds, "It was a mild subduction under the African plate." Natasha then says, "Do we have a visual? How are we handling it?" Okoye then says, "Nat, it was an earthquake under the ocean. We handle it by not handling it." Now, for those of you who are not aware, Wakanda and Atlantis, which is where Namor is from, have a very long history together and a very big rivalry. Now, when they said this in Avengers Endgame, a lot of people immediately thought Atlantis. The earthquake was caused by Namor and his people, and Okoye most likely doesn't want everybody to know about the Atlanteans. After all, Wakanda was kept a secret to everybody for many, many years. They probably don't want word of Atlantis getting out. But this Easter egg was never confirmed until the other day. A few days ago, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers for Avengers Endgame, took over comicbook.com's Twitter account during a quarantine watch party. And during this time, they did a Q&A, and they took some questions from fans on Twitter, in which one person asked, "Was Okoye's message about dealing with underwater tremors by leaving it alone a direct reference to Atlantis and Namor?" In which Christopher Marcus replied, "Sometimes you plant seeds, sometimes they grow." And this is definitely a confirmation. If it was not an Easter egg, they would have simply said no. They have said no to questions like these in the past before. They would have simply said no again. Instead, they confirmed that they planted a seed and it's growing. And that seed is Namor and his introduction to the MCU. Now, Namor coming to the MCU was pretty much inevitable as we had it, especially with Black Panther and the introduction of Wakanda to the MCU. Not to mention the X-Men are coming and the Fantastic Four as well, and Namor has a big connection to both of those groups. And as I mentioned before, there's a rumor going around that Namor is going to be appearing in 3 films. First to appear in the Eternals, which we've had a report for in the past already, then appearing again in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, until finally debuting in Black Panther 2 as the main antagonist of the film. Now, like I said, it's just a rumor for now. However, we have had individual reports in the past that have said that Namor is going to show up in the Eternals along with his city, Atlantis. And then we have also had a report that he's going to show up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And as far as him showing up as the villain in Black Panther 2, story-wise, it makes the most sense. But let's talk about his first appearances in the MCU as rumored. The first report that we got for Namor was that he is going to be appearing in the Eternals film, and Atlantis is going to be appearing as well. What it's supposed to show is apparently the sinking of Atlantis. This makes a lot of sense to show and tease in the Eternals because the Eternals are essentially immortal beings. They live for thousands and thousands of years, and the Eternals film is going to show them over various different points throughout their lives. And it's already been confirmed by various different set photos that the Eternals are going to visit the ancient Egyptian and ancient Mayan times. We have leaked photos from the set that show the tomb of the space gods. And the report is when the Eternals are back in that era in the film, they're going to show the sinking of Atlantis. Now, the Avengers Endgame Easter egg is not the only Namor Easter egg that we've had in the MCU. There was actually one in Iron Man 2. In a scene in Iron Man 2 where Tony Stark is speaking with Nick Fury, there's a hologram in the back with a world map on it. On the map, there are several locations that are marked. One is Wakanda, and at this point, Wakanda had not really been mentioned. The only thing that had been mentioned was vibranium. But there's another mark that is right next to Wakanda in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And there's only one thing that could be right off the coast of Africa in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and that is Atlantis. Now, at the time, there were plans for a Namor film to be in development. But unfortunately, due to the rights of Namor, the project was shelved. The rights to Namor are pretty much the same as the rights to the Hulk. You can have him in a group team-up film, but he can't have his own solo film. So the next play is to introduce him in another film. Now, rumor has it that a version of Namor will be shown in the Eternals when Atlantis sinks. However, we may not get that good of a look at him. His real debut is really going to be in Black Panther 2. Namor being in Black Panther 2 is an extremely big deal for the future of the MCU, and here's why. The X-Men could be heavily involved. Wakanda and Atlantis in the comics are known for being at war with one another. This starts because Namor gets possessed with the Phoenix Force. There's a battle between the Avengers and the X-Men, and T'Challa allows the Avengers to use Wakanda as their home base. Namor, possessed with the Phoenix Force along with other X-Men, launch an attack on Wakanda. Namor hits Wakanda with a huge tsunami which practically destroys the majority of the city. Wakanda quickly rebuilds and they seek revenge on Atlantis. After kidnapping some Atlantean generals and refusing to sign a peace treaty, Wakanda launches a full attack on Atlantis, destroying most of their city. And then, much like in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos would eventually come to Earth seeking the Infinity Stones, and Wakanda was one of Thanos' targets. Wakanda managed to win the first attack by Thanos and his Black Order, but then Namor told Proxima Midnight of the Black Order where the Infinity Stone was. Proxima Midnight then led an attack on Wakanda, and Wakanda had to retreat. So as you can expect, Atlantis and Wakanda don't exactly get along. And although we aren't going to have an Avengers vs. X-Men show up in Black Panther 2, the X-Men should be entering their way into the MCU at least a little bit when Black Panther 2 comes out. But the real kicker that would involve some of the X-Men, Namor, the Fantastic Four, and some of the Avengers as well is the Illuminati. And the Illuminati could appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Not too long ago, Mikey Sutton reported that Marvel's planning on introducing the Illuminati in Doctor Strange 2. Now, the Illuminati is a secret group formed by the leaders of various different superhero groups. The Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Inhumans, etc. And together as a group, they all share information and decide secretly how all of the individual groups of superheroes will correspond to any earthly threat or any threat that is universal that could affect Earth. Tony Stark was the original organizer of the group, and he represents the Avengers. He also represents normal humans without any superhero abilities. Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, represents the Fantastic Four and represents the science-based part of the superhero community. Black Bolt, the king of the Inhumans, represents the Inhumans, of course. Professor Xavier represents the X-Men and is there on behalf of the mutant community. Of course, Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, represents for the mystic side of the Marvel Universe. And then there is Namor, the king of Atlantis, who is there to represent the anti-hero mindset. Now, what's interesting is Black Panther was originally asked to join, but he declined. And this is something that could play a factor in the MCU. You see, Marvel likes to set things up and then give hints that something is coming way in advance. They actually did this with Black Panther and Wakanda. In the very first Captain America film, Captain America: The First Avenger, they introduced vibranium.
But this one?
No, that's just a prototype.
What's it made of?
Vibranium is stronger than steel and a third the weight. It's completely vibration absorbent.
How come it's not a standard issue?
That's the rarest metal on Earth.
Then, of course, vibranium, Black Panther, and Wakanda would go on to play a major role in the MCU. But they also did this with Captain America and the Incredible Hulk. They teased the Super Soldier Serum. And then eventually they would go on in Captain America: The First Avenger to inject Steve Rogers with that serum, making him into Captain America. And now we have two Easter eggs, two unspoken Easter eggs for Namor. The location pinpointed in Iron Man 2 and then the Avengers Endgame underwater earthquake Easter egg. But now it's time for the more obvious Easter egg. In the first Captain America film, Howard Stark literally said the word vibranium, and that's where the Eternals come in. If we do see the sinking of Atlantis, they will most likely refer to the city as Atlantis, and this will most likely be our first true teaser for Namor. Then in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, if they do form the Illuminati, this will be the first true appearance of Namor. And then if everything comes together like the reports say, Namor will finally make his actual MCU debut in Black Panther 2. So, Namor is coming to the MCU. The writers of Avengers Endgame admitted that they did put that Namor Easter egg in the film. And now it's only a matter of time until we get an official tease. So, let me know what you think about this news and let me know how pumped you are for Namor to enter the MCU. Be sure to let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Again, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all things relating to the MCU, and for live updates you can follow me on Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.